Hello, friends. Show me the money. And that's the theme of today's Dollar Tree video. And I'm kind of joking and I'm kind of not joking, but finances are hard. They are hard for everybody and more so for some than others, but we're going to make the best out of it. Hi, I'm Aubrey, and this is Crybaby Selma Homestead. Welcome to my channel where I like to find great deals. I like to be creative, stretch my dollar, be frugal. I like to garden and all that kind of stuff. And, I grow my own herbs and all that stuff. So now I don't want to I don't want to go too crazy sharing personal information. But I used to shop at the Dollar Tree because I liked it, because it was a great deal. It was $1.25. It was $1. It was $1 because hence the name Dollar Tree. Then it was $1.25. Then now some of the things are up to $1.50. Some things are 3, 5, 7, 9. Yada yada yada. And we all know what's happening with inflation. It's pretty crazy. But we're gonna get things. We're gonna make ends meet. We're gonna find a way to get all the things that our kids need, like school supplies and stuff like that. I did decide to get the highlighters here because they were cheaper, and my son's school says it has to have several different colors. If you only needed yellow, I just buy the one pack of yellow. But his school supply said he had to have multiple colors, so I went ahead and got that. There are some stores that have better deals on certain things. The pens, some of the pens you could find for like less than $1 somewhere else. They'd be different brands or whatever. But I do like the clicky pens, and I like the way they write. So you might be getting an extra pen or two. I'm not quite sure. I didn't really compare that crazy, but I got the blue and the black pens that were on my son's list for school. And so if you're struggling financially, I do want to say not to be embarrassed about asking for help. Some people are really savvy on this because they've been low income for a while. We got big plans, right? Got big plans. Even you can have no money and still have big plans, right? Have a good life, even on a budget. But some people who have been low income for a while, they know all the little, pots of money, all the little resources that add up and can make your life easier. And if you know some of those things, go ahead and pop a comment to share it with some of the other people who are on here. But for me, as somebody who I have not been low income for a long time now. But I am going to be really struggling for at least the next 11 years. And, oh, you guys, life is hard. Never thought I'd be where I am right now. I still have a full-time job, but if you add up all of my debt, such as the mortgage, escrow, house insurance, health insurance, car insurance, property taxes, my student loan debt, which is about $1,000 a month, credit card debt, which is about $1,000 a month, due to a lifestyle that was not sustainable. So I've had to come to the realization that I will not be able to live the lifestyle of my colleagues. It's just not going to happen. I am going to be, and have been for over a month now, a one income household. And it's a household where I have 2 adult children. I have a middle schooler, an 11-year-old, and I have a granddaughter, all of which are heavily financially reliant upon me and are not receiving like state aid. Like they're not getting food stamps. They're not getting TANF, whatever. What they're getting is the generosity of their mama. And that's all I can do. I can't pay for my son's college. He has his AA, and he's going back now to get his bachelor's, and it's gonna cost every penny he can save up from his job to pay for college. I can't pay for college, but I can let him live here rent free. That's what I can give him. And I have a lot of friends who are and family who are like, you should charge him. Like, if I charge him, he will have to go into debt to go to college. And that's the one thing I can do for him, is for him to not have his life start with debt like mine did. And like, even with an AA, he's tried for many different jobs, and the only jobs that would hire are minimum wage. And so he's going to need a specialty. So that's what he's going to try to do. And the way I can help my children is to provide a roof over their heads. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's going to be a sacrifice that on a one income household, um, we're going to have to lower our expectations when it comes to birthday parties and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Our birthday parties are going to be like they were in the old days, in our house, in our backyard, with a sheet cake that's homemade from mom. Yes, I apologize. I'm not quite the cook, but it is going to be what it's going to be. We can grill up some hot dogs and have a sheet cake like we did when I was a kid, and have a happy heart and a thankful heart for it. Because my childhood, despite growing up in a divorced family, and being low income, I didn't know I was low income. I thought I was rich. And for a while, we lived in a double wide trailer, and all of my friends lived in single wide trailers, and they thought I was rich. My mom would go to a yard sale and come home with a bag of Barbie accessories for $2. And I thought it was Christmas. And it was amazing. Even back then, a Barbie cost $30. It's crazy. A Barbie cost $30 and the outfits cost a lot. And she would go and she would get like, a whole bag of, Barbies, Ken dolls, Barbie shoes, clothing, all that stuff for $2. I dump it out on my floor and sort it and organize it, and it was like insane. My friends, their parents didn't go to yard sales. They didn't have a vehicle to drive them to yard sales. So they thought I was rich, even though I was not. We were way below the poverty line, way below. But it's all perspective, There's always going to be somebody who has more than you. There's always going to be somebody who has less than you. And for whatever you do have a grateful, appreciative heart. So I thank God for the life that we have. I thank God for the roof over our heads, that there's food in the refrigerator, that, I can go and buy 50 pounds of potatoes for $11 at US Chefs. Like, we're not going to starve to death. But I did the budget, and I cannot use Dollar Tree as my Temu, like, shop like a millionaire and just throw everything in the cart anymore. Like, I used to go, like, some people in my situation where they're a teacher or whatever, at the top of the pay scale, they can go on trips to Spain. They can go on trips to Hawaii and Mexico every year. And like, some people I work with go on like 3 trips a year. It's incredible. I have no idea what that feels like. I haven't been on a trip for more than one night in 18 years. And when we went on that trip, we drove, we stayed at families' houses, and it wasn't anything crazy or spectacular. It was just, a getaway. So we have to change our expectations. You know what I mean? And look for deals, be creative, think outside the box, be resourceful, and we have to check our humility at the door. You can't be low income and make it and be arrogant. You have to humble yourself, and figure out how things work. You have to be honest about your finances to yourself. You don't have to tell other people. Back in the day, it used to be considered exceedingly rude to talk about money and to talk about like debt or who has, because if a rich person was to say, "Oh yes, I make $1 million a year," like, it was rude because somebody you're talking to probably doesn't make that, right? It would be considered really rude. But also, it's probably put people in a position where they get taken advantage of. Because if somebody knows that you have more than them, then they're going to, expect you to pay for them. And that's not how rich people become rich. That's how rich people become poor, is by giving. So, yeah, I'm taking a tangent, but everything's going to be okay. I am stressed about money. It's, I was not expecting this, uh, you know, 23 years, and I was not expecting it. But ladies, I'm going to give you some advice. It's advice that actually probably came in the early 1900s from my great grandmother. She went by the name Ruby. She changed her name because she didn't like her name was Bernice. And my great grandma was this tiny little German lady, and she came from poverty. She had 8 children. And after having 8 children, my grandpa Wesley left her. Yes. My great grandpa Wesley, back in like the 1920s, left his wife and 8 children. And so she said to every female relative, a woman's always got to have her own money. And that is certainly true. And if there's men watching this, I'm not saying anything about you guys, but a stay-at-home mom puts a lot of trust in her husband. And my great grandma Ruby, put a lot of trust in my great grandpa Wesley. And it was not warranted. And so, she'd tell my mom, her granddaughter, and when she was very elderly, she kept thinking I was my mom. So that was really sad. But she would tell my mom, a woman should always have her own money. A woman should always have her own bank account. A woman should have her own income. And that's something that I took to heart. My mom told me that when I was a little girl, that was advice from my great grandmother. And when I looked at my childhood growing up in poverty, and my biological father was not in poverty, the lifestyle that he had compared to the lifestyle I had, when I love him, God bless him, God rest his soul. Hopefully, I hope he's in heaven with Jesus. He was not a believer, but I hope he is. I hope he had a change of heart before it's too late. He never paid child support for me. And I grew up in poverty. My dad had money. And I remember thinking, I will never be a stay-at-home mom. I will never trust a man to take care of me, because you never know when they're going to decide they don't love you anymore. And they're going to decide that they want to start over. They want a fresh start in life. They go through a midlife crisis and they want a younger woman, or they want a car. They want a nice shiny car that you say no to because it's not in the budget. But they're going through something. They're going through their midlife crisis and feeling they want to have some major life change. And so you can't trust somebody. And I remember working with a lady who had been a stay-at-home mom, and when her boys were in high school, her husband left her. She didn't have a job. She had dropped out of college to be a stay-at-home mom. And so she had to go back to school to get a degree so she could actually support her family. Well, at least I'm in the position where I already have a job. And so everything's going to be okay. So I think you can probably by now put together that I am going through a divorce. And it's very sobering. I wish it was sobering for everyone involved. But the deal-seeking skills that I did for fun before are now going to be a matter, I don't want to say life and death because that sounds dramatic, but you know what I mean? It's a matter of making it or not making it through the month. It's a matter of because I remember when I was a first-year teacher, I literally lived off of baked potatoes and green beans. I literally had a baked potato and half a can of green beans with soy sauce on it every night for dinner, because that's all I could afford. Because between my rent, car insurance, gas, and and all that, I only had like $100 a month for food and for any spending at all. And I remember paying for gas in coins and, you know, so I can do it. I've been there before, and I know it's very humbling because I felt like financially we were finally starting to be okay. And having two incomes to support a family and all of the things it takes that goes into that, like escrow payments, it's a lot of money. And so I'm shopping at the Dollar Tree, and I am shopping clearance to make sure that my children have what they need, without having to feel like they are beggars. And it's going to be a wake up call for them, because even if though I'm trying to shelter them from the reality of financial, I mean, I don't know, there's no nice way to say it, it's poverty, but it's going to be a total different experience when it comes to our day-to-day lives, what we can afford, what Christmases will look like. And in some ways it's going to be better, because honestly, when I was a kid, I mean, if I look back, like, wow, I really didn't have that much. I had a magical childhood. I had a fabulous sense of imagination. Like, I remember there was this little girl, I was so jealous, but her dad, he was actually a World War II, no, not World War II vet. He was a Vietnam vet. He actually had been shot in the head and survived. He was one of my dad's best friends. His name was Ron, and he built a dollhouse for his daughter, and it worked. It had like tiny light fixtures that turned on. It was incredible. And I remember looking at her dollhouse and going, that's so cool. And her dad worked for my dad. And I thought, why don't I have a dollhouse? You know, um, I don't know. Like, whenever I lived away from my dad, I didn't even get Christmas presents except for 1 year. My dad and my brother sent me a care package in Germany, and my brother had got me a palette of makeup from a fancy store that was on clearance or something, and it was so amazing. But usually, whenever we were out of the state, like, I wouldn't even get a gift from my dad. So I was so jealous of that dollhouse. But that was like one day. I felt jealous for one day. And then me and my friends, we all were kind of in the same boat, living in that building in Germany. And we built little doll houses out of our our little books. So we took our books and we made like the walls, and we stacked it like kind of like a house of cards. And we used washcloths and wrapped them around the Barbies like they were dresses and stuff like that. It was pretty awesome. Like, I remember staying up all night with a little girl named Erin, and I had cut up fabric, and I sewed it together, and I tied it, and I painted it. I made a bunch of little tiny dolls. I mean, they kind of look like voodoo dolls, to be honest. But they were really cute and tiny, and I had a lot of fun. Like, my mom didn't buy me expensive crafting materials, but I just used whatever I had, and I had to use my imagination. And there's something really powerful and beautiful about that. So it's like, it's almost like the kids who struggle are going to have a better outcome because they have to figure things out. They have to be problem solvers, just like we have to be. So thinking about, like, what are your resources? What do you have? What can you do with what you have? How can you stretch it? How can you make it more versatile? Why buy that one thing that can only do one thing? Buy something that can do multiple things. You know, it's like, I saw this, I mean, before things started to tank. They have these things, they're called like reusable paper towels. And whenever I saw them, they're like $13. And I started laughing. I was like, you know what a reusable paper towel is called? A washcloth or a rag. That's a reusable paper towel. Like, are you kidding me? Why would anybody spend that kind of money for a reusable paper towel? You can literally buy a washcloth. Go over to the Dollar Tree and you can buy a dish towel for $1.25. You can buy, I think, 2 or 3 um, washcloths for $1.25. I mean, they're very basic. You can take an old shirt or something that's stained, cut it into pieces, and now you have rags. That's what we would do. If you had something that was beyond repair, we would cut it up into pieces and we put it in a bag or in a 5-gallon bucket. And every time you got a spill, you'd grab one of them, wipe it off, throw it in the washing machine. If it was really gross, you'd throw it away. But it's like, I just don't get it. Like, why would you pay $14 for a reusable paper towel when that's literally a washcloth? So sometimes we are just wasting our money on these luxury items that we think of as convenience items. Sometimes we even, that's a stud finder. I'm looking for stud. A stud finder. Where is he? Is he cute? Okay. So like, have a sense of humor about it. Be creative. Everything's going to be okay. Like, I have arts and crafts materials. All my friends and family members are going to be getting things like Christmas ornaments for gifts. They're going to maybe get some handmade jewelry of things I already have. Um, for my nieces who really love jewelry and stuff, I'm probably going to put together some little crafting kits for them where they have their own beads. They can spell their name. They can, put words like motivational little things on bracelets or whatever. They're going to get what they get. And, if I find something on clearance or a really good deal, I'll stick it away into a tote, and save it until it's their birthday or until it's Christmas. And that's what I've been doing for the last month and a half. Is just kind of being more frugal and having those conversations about the lifestyle change that we're going to be having, so that the expectations are tempered and that people realize, okay, from now on, we're going to be giving gifts that really come from the heart. It's not going to be like the most snazzy, shiny, glittery thing that's life changing, but it's going to be nice. It's going to be sweet. A lot more homemade things, a lot more like, even if it's like Duncan Hines, out of a box, like a lot of things are going to be made from home, um, and including gifts and food and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be back to the way it was when I was a kid, which was birthday parties were in the backyard. My mom would make hot dogs because they were the cheapest thing you could do to feed a bunch of kids. Um, Even like mac and cheese is expensive now, but hot dogs are still pretty cheap, and you can make a sheet cake. There you go. That's a birthday party. It's not going to be like at Chuck E. Cheese. It's not going to be at an arcade or something. So those expectations have to be adjusted, and I think it's respectful to have that conversation with your kids so that they know, it's not because they're in trouble. It's because there's financial situation. Everything's going to be okay. There's enough. We're going to survive. We're just not going to be able to go crazy, right? So I think that's really important because even like my aunts, they told me that when my grandma Frances was alive, that she would spend all of her money on a credit card for Christmas for all of her kids. And she would work doing in-home daycare, where it was basically like a preschool. She would do in-home daycare the whole year to pay off that credit card so that she could spoil her kids at Christmas. And she often bought gifts for her kids that they didn't even really want. Like, they said that she had these giant Barbie dolls, or these giant dolls that like they had arms legs that could move, and they were really tall. And my aunts were not very girly. They were, a little bit more like tomboys. And they didn't want the dolls, but my grandma spent all of her money on them. And so I'm like, um, we often, as parents, we are guilted into spending money that we didn't necessarily have to spend because we feel bad that we didn't have enough time with our kids. So it's like, you know what? Even though I'm working, I do have time to spend with my kids. I can do a craft thing with my children. I can't pay for like the painted nights where you go out to a professional place and they teach you how to paint, but we could put on a YouTube video. I have like old canvases and I could paint something with them, or we can make jewelry, or we could buy at the Dollar Tree. They have in the sometimes, not always, but they have like these little vases in the craft area where the outside is not painted, but the inside is glossy. It's sealed inside, so you can put water and have like flowers in it. That would be an adorable craft. It's $1.25. And I already have Sharpie markers. I already have Mod Podge and like spray paint and all kinds of different paints. You could even use something like old nail polish. Like if you don't have enough nail polish for a whole thing, you could use it, to embellish it or something, make it shiny. So use what you have, be creative, be resourceful, be humble. Um, and everything is going to work out. If you're shopping at the Dollar Tree, most likely you're not wealthy, although there are people who are wealthy who shop at the Dollar Tree. For instance, there are some influencers and YouTube, um, almost like celebrities, who actually do not need to shop at the Dollar Tree, but they know that there's a bigger fan base that they can pull from by appealing to people who are low income. So they'll make these ridiculous, I don't want to be mean to them because it's not bad ideas. They're not bad ideas. It's like those chef shows where it's like, here's a kitchen full of this stuff. You have these weird ingredients. What are you going to make with it? And then the chefs have to do with what they can, right? It's kind of like that. They're doing that with Dollar Tree. They don't have to shop there. They have everything that they need. They can go to any craft store and buy whatever materials they wanted. Or they could go to some fancy place and buy the actual item that they're trying to replicate. But they'll go to Dollar Tree and spend $50 on all the different things to make something that's worth $10. And so I don't understand the rationale there. Like, so there's this one lady, I went to a yard sale like either last year or the year before. I didn't buy the item, but it was clear to me that she was a YouTuber because she had so many of those DIY type things and she was selling them. They looked brand new. So basically she makes a video of them, and then she gets rid of them because she doesn't really use them. Like, she's making them just for the video content, right? Because that video might have made her, I don't know how much money, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. And, she's out $50 for something that's worth, 50 cents. So think about it. Think about like how many items would you have to put together? Is it worth it, or should you have just bought the item? Or would it be better to have like a quality item? Go to a secondhand store and look for that thing. Like if you want to make a shelf, should you buy 100 pieces of plastic and hot glue them together to make this thing and add mirrors and stuff? So you have this like little like vanities type thing that literally you move it wrong and it falls apart on you, and it's literally trash now because you hot glued it everywhere and you painted it, and when it falls apart you can't do anything with it anymore and it goes into a landfill. So I don't like that kind of content. I like looking for a good deal where it's like, okay, well, there's ornaments. You can make ornaments with the little wooden things. You can make the little globes that you fill with paint and water or with glitter or whatever. Like, I don't think you should go to the Dollar Tree and spend $50 on a project that's not worth $50. And she was selling her things for like $5-10. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm like counting how many items she spent at $1.25 plus tax each. There's no way. Yeah, it's just a waste. There are some really cute ideas though. crafty things that you can do from the Dollar Tree. But just be cautious that some people will trick you into thinking, oh, well, because it's the Dollar Tree, it's a dollar. No, there's like 50 items right there. That's not a dollar. It's, the accumulation of $1.25 times however many items. So, and just because it's cheap doesn't mean you should buy it. You should always take inventory of what do you already have? Do you need it? Like, I always need hair ties. I have long hair, and they wear out really fast, and they break and they get lost and stuff. And those ones actually last a long time. Um, and I just saved myself like $4 by buying them at Dollar Tree. So it's a good deal. I did have to uninstall the Temu app. And I'm not shopping from them anymore. I stopped shopping from them like I think a year ago because they gamify shopping too much to the end that I was buying stuff I wouldn't have bought because they'd have like a wheel of fortune kind of thing, and they'd be like, you have to buy 7 items to get this deal, and there'd be one item I really wanted to get, but then you couldn't buy it unless you bought like all the item numbers, and then you'd be about to check out, and then it'd say, oh, you qualify for 2 more items. Now you have to buy 2 more items to get the deal. And so I was just sick and tired of that because um I was wasting money on stuff I did not want so that I could get an item for a better deal. I should just buy that item for the price that it should be instead of buying all that extra stuff that I don't need. And a lot of it was just plastic stuff that would fall apart. And a lot of times the orders would take so long that by the time I got it, I would have needed that item already and I'd have to buy it somewhere else. So I would much rather just pop onto Amazon or go to the Dollar Tree and get a good deal that way. Um, the Amazon account, the Prime membership, I am going to keep it, even though it's a price, because the deals I get on Amazon are so good that it offsets the price of the membership, and it also includes like a streaming service. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that for now. I'm also going to keep my Walmart.com account because they will deliver groceries to my house, and that's super convenient when I'm working, and it's going to be a 1-parent household. I don't have anyone to help anymore. Not that was ever too much of the case anyway. But so like if I'm really tired after working all day, I can actually on my planning period or during my duty free lunch, I could pop onto Walmart and put in my order, and it's usually going to take a couple hours for it to get there, and then I won't have to stop, you know. And I usually do put a tip in, but I'm like, if you think of like how many items I would have impulsively thrown into the cart because I'm there, it's still a benefit even if I tip them $5. Um, the Coffee Mate here, by the way, is not a deal. You can get a store brand coffee creamer for less than that. So store brand. Um, Another thing I've been doing for creamers is that I am doing like a combination of intermittent fasting and low carbing. And I'm down like almost 40 pounds. Thank you. Yes, I know. Thank you. But I can't afford to do like true low carbing, but I still have Atkins shakes, and the chocolate Atkins shakes are really good as coffee creamer. So that's something to think about because then it's like you're having your breakfast, but you're also having your coffee at the same time. So I sometimes will use those if I run out of creamer. And it works perfectly. It is such a charmer. Charmer. Yes, I'm flirting with my coffee creamer. But no, for real, 'cause it really does really hit the spot. And it does like fill the gap. So it's also shelf stable. It's not indefinitely, but you don't have to refrigerate them. So if you like don't have a large fridge or you don't have space for it, if you have like the Atkins shakes, they're not too expensive and you can use it as coffee creamer, which I think ends up being a better deal because it's breakfast and the creamer all in one. So kind of nice. One thing nice about Dollar Tree though is like they do have like kind of have almost everything. They don't have fresh produce at my Dollar Trees. I think there is fresh produce at some. If yours has fresh produce, pop a comment below. But like they actually have quite a bit. They have a lot of stuff that's made in the USA. A lot of times they will have like smaller packages. Sometimes it's not a better deal because if you go to not Walgreens, if you go to Winco, a lot of times they'll have canned food for less than $1. So sometimes they'll have like 2 cans for $1 if it's like on sale, but it's usually less than $1 for a can of like green beans or corn. So if you're getting something that simple, it would be cheaper to go to Winco. Now, not everybody has transportation. That's something to think about too. Is if you're walking to your store or riding a bike or taking a bus, that's a huge savings right there. Not paying for gas and not paying for insurance is a huge savings. But then you have to think about what is the best store, because you're likely not going to want to go to multiple stores, especially if you have something like creamer or milk or something, because it's going to go bad. So um, even if you would have saved 50 cents by going to Winco to get a can of green beans, you might be better off just going to the Dollar Tree, where you only have to go to one place and not have to catch another bus and or whatever, or pay for the gas, whatever it is, you're doing. So I do really like these little Christmas trees and stuff, and I am feeling kind of reassured that I already have a fake tree and I won't have to spend $80 on a live tree this year. So um we don't technically need anything, but it's always kind of fun to look at the stuff that they have, and they often will have something interesting and different. Even if, like I was going to say too about like Christmas presents, this can apply to birthday presents too. But if you know that there's a particularly difficult month where there's like a lot of things happening, or there's a lot of people that you have to buy for, dividing it up over the year is a really practical solution to being able to afford it. So instead of doing what my grandma Frances did, which was to put everything on a credit card and spend the whole year paying it off, that's a terrible idea, because you're paying most of it in interest, or a good deal of it is being paid in the interest. So instead, you figure out how much money do you have to work with. So if I have $800, I literally have less than $800 to pay for my gas, which is probably about $200 a month, which means I have $600 to live off of for food, um, presents for the kids, entertainment, whatever, what have you. All of the expendable things that it's our choice and our authority over how much money we're going to spend. I literally have less than $800 a month. So, if I'm looking at Christmas, where I have at least four children of mine, like my 3 kids and a grandchild, I have to buy 4. But there's also, friends and siblings and parents and stuff. And so I'm like, I will look at who needs to have a real gift versus those people who can have a handmade gift, or could be a coupon. It could be like, I'll babysit your child. Like I can give my daughter, if you want to go on date night, I will babysit my granddaughter so that you can go on a date. I could do, like, for my oldest son, I could do, okay, well, his chores is to do the dishes. Well, for the month of December, maybe he doesn't have to do the dishes. Um, so there's ways you can incorporate service type gifts as well. Like maybe you're going to make dinner for the family, or you're going to do someone's chores, or you're going to run someone's errands for them, or you're going to babysit, or you're going to whatever. It doesn't have to be a actual product or a gift. It can be a gift of service. So think like that. Think with an open mind. Like, for instance, I told a friend of mine, Reba the gardening artist, I told her, check out our channel, by the way, about what's going on in my life and how it's going to be so difficult with money, and how I feel kind of bad for my family because they're used to being able to, I basically am a yes mom. I only say no when I have to say no. I'm the same way in my classroom. Like, kids hear no so much that I'm like, if I can say yes, I want to say yes, but I don't want to say that until I know for sure. I don't want to let them down. but they're going to be hearing no more often. So she went through all of the ads that you get in the mail for like coupons for restaurants and stuff. And she cut out and gave me all of the ads she thought my children would enjoy. So like, you know, I think there was something from like KFC, like 20 chicken wings for $20. Like that's enough food for my entire family for dinner. Like I mean, I have a bag of baked potatoes over here. I have a bag of potatoes. I went to US Chefs, which is basically cash and carry, and they have 50 pounds of potatoes for $11. The price for onions is just a couple dollars more. I didn't grab the onions because they didn't look great this time. They usually look really good. But like for potatoes, I can make potato salad, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes. We can make hash browns for breakfast. We can incorporate them into something else to make it stretch further. So for 50 pounds of food for $11 is absolutely incredible. So if you are feeling like you are not making it through the month and you don't have enough money for food, if there's a US Chefs near you and they have 50 pounds of potatoes for $11, I highly recommend that. It is a lot of food. And also, if they start sprouting, and next year you could plant them. They don't recommend that. People don't recommend that because they are afraid of like plant diseases and so forth. And we're not trying to cause the next Irish potato famine. That was caused by fungus that was in the potatoes. But I technically do plant sprouted potatoes as well. So don't let them go to waste. And also, if you think they're going to go to waste, you could always buy it with a friend. Split it. They pay $5. You pay $5. You both get 25 pounds of potatoes. Like that's incredible. I don't know any deals like that. That's crazy. So, like, if my son's like, my youngest wants to go to McDonald's and he's like, I want French fries. Okay, honey, I'm going to make you French fries. My mom used to make them for my friends when I was little. Everybody loved coming to my house. We were poor. My mom had enough money for vegetable oil and potatoes, and she would at least once a week make homemade French fries for all the kids in the neighborhood. Um, and everybody thought I was rich. And now I look at it, I'm like, wow, I wasn't rich. She spent barely any money, but she was resourceful. And that's what we have to be in this economy. And if you're going through stuff like I'm going through stuff, we got to figure out ways to pinch those pennies and make them stretch, but have a good time about it. Because even when I was young going to college, and all of the people I went to college with, it was a private college, most of them were, I don't want to say entitled, but they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they didn't have to work when they went to school. I worked multiple jobs while I was going to college to pay for all my expenses. I paid for my own books. I paid for my own dorm. I paid for my car insurance and my gas. And it was hard. Like after going to school all day, actually in between my classes, I worked for the music department. I worked for the writing center. I worked for the bookstore. Um, and then after my classes were over at 9 o'clock at night, I'd go work at Denny's as a waitress. And then I'd get off at like 4 in the morning, and I'd have class again at 8 in the morning. So I actually got fired from a job at a restaurant because I have kind of a speech impediment that sounds kind of arrogant. Like I sound like I'm a little hoity-toity. I'm not. I have a speech impediment and I have to over concentrate to pronounce my words. So I come across as being a little arrogant or something. And this waitress that I worked for, she thought I was this entitled little rich girl, and she didn't want to work with me. So, like I was always doing everybody's side jobs. Like I'd finish my job and I'd go do their side jobs because I was trying to help and show them I was valuable and helpful. And she fired me because I thought I was too good, that I was doing their job for them. And I was like, I'm going to lose my apartment because and she's like, your daddy will take care of you. I was like, he didn't pay child support. So what makes you think he's going to pay for my apartment? Like, are you crazy? Um, so yeah. And, I still made it through, when that happened. I ran around from place to place, finding other jobs, and you find a way to make ends meet when you need to make ends meet. Like, you will find a creative way to stretch the dollars. I think after that, I ended up working I worked at the newspaper before that. I just kept going to other places. Hey, do you have a job? 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 I went to all these places, finally got something. And, it was hard. And it's going to be hard again for me because going from two professional incomes to one, where I'm the one with all the debt, but I made it a little bit more than him. So I'm the one who has to pay. I'm the one who is going to lose, because in Washington State, it's a no-fault community property state, which means whoever has more will have less. Um, it's just the way it rolls, and it's not fair because I'm the one with all the responsibility, but I am the one who basically will lose. So yeah, good times. And $800 a month is not enough to feed a family of 5 and pay for gas and pay for birthdays and Christmas and a social life and entertainment and all the things that come up, and unexpected medical bills or whatever. So I need my channel to take off, you guys. I need you to click the like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. Hit the bell for notifications, because if this channel doesn't take off, I'm going to have to get a second job. But it would really be helpful to me to not have to do that, because by the end of my school day, I'm so tired. That the idea of going and working somewhere else at the end is just really overwhelming. I did it for many years. My first couple years of teaching, I worked as a waitress at a restaurant called Ruby Tuesdays. They're out of business now here in Washington. But I used to work there, and I worked there like almost every evening and weekend, and just to barely make things and make ends meet. And I worked as a college instructor. It was ridiculous. I literally made minimum wage. It's incredible that they pay college instructors so little. It's actually less than a school teacher. So that was nuts. But I really won't have much of a choice pretty soon. I'm going to have to get another job. So, I'm going to have to be extremely frugal. And even my kids are going to have to pitch in. Like, I did tell my older son that if he wanted to keep Netflix, he had to pay for it. And he's been paying for it now. And so, that's a blessing that he's willing to pitch in for that. And this little shopping trip for my daughter, I did pay for it because our plan had always been to renovate a space in the house so that she could feel like she had an apartment for her and her daughter and everything. And so that's still happening, but on a very, very strict budget with materials that I already had, and with people volunteering for my church. And I'm kind of helpless when it comes to like renovating an area. Like, what? How do you do that? But I have some friends who have skills that I will have to glean from their expertise and learn things. Like, that's one of the things is when you are low income, you have to learn. You actually have to keep your mind active. So I think there is a benefit to being low income. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but if you think, let me give you what I mean. So when I was low income as a kid, I appreciated things. There was a gladness and a thankfulness that came from not having everything you ever wanted. When you finally did get it, or you got something close to it, you appreciated it. We took good care of our toys. We didn't break them. We didn't draw on them. We cleaned stuff. We, repaired things. We would darn our socks, like we darn those socks. No, you'd fix them. Like if they had a hole in them, you'd actually repair your broken clothing. You would, if you had a cut in your jeans, you wouldn't cut holes in your jeans. You would sew those jeans. You'd patch your jeans. You'd collect the buttons and sew them back on. We wore out our shoes. Like, it was just something we did. And we had appreciative hearts. We were creative. We had to use our imaginations. We didn't have, like I said, doll houses. We would make them out of books and stuff. Um, I was always drawing things like my future house will have a bowling alley. Like, my future house is going to have a roller rink in it, but we used our imaginations, and it was fun to use our imaginations. And nowadays kids can't problem solve. Like, they don't have the patience to wait and to think something out. They want the answer right away. So that's something, like, I think there's a cognitive, mental, and emotional and social benefit to not being high income. Um, Having just barely not enough, you have to, I mean, you could say do Sudoku puzzles and crosswords and stuff like that, but actually having to figure out a solution to a problem that's real is more meaningful. It's much more likely that you're going to put the effort into it and consistently do it than if you're like, oh, you need to challenge your brain. How many people, have dementia, or you have cognitive decline, memory loss, and it could be prevented with being active by going for a walk. All those people who are walking to the store to get their groceries, they have an advantage because they're being physically active. The people who have to, like, figure out how they're going to stretch their dollars and how they're going to make gifts, they are using their brains in a way that's going to help their memory long term. So there are definitely pros. One of them, I think, is just that positive outlook and being grateful. It's crazy to me, but when I see kids in my classroom, some kids are so, I don't want to say entitled because that sounds bad, but it's like so, and privileged also has a bad connotation, but it's like they have so much. They don't have to work hard for anything. They don't have grit or perseverance. And when something bad happens, they give up. And it's crazy. I can't tell you how many superintendents and professors and lawyers have adult children with drug addiction. Like, it is serious, because, and if you look at it, it's not like the parents are at fault, but they were not around. They were too busy working. Their job was too important. Um, the kids had everything they could ever want in terms of material items, but they didn't have their parents' time. And so that's what I would say is the most important thing you can give your kids is your time, to love on them, let them know, talk to them, listen to them. And if you're going through a financial hardship like I am right now, be honest with them. Don't be like, oh, we'll never have anything again and we don't have enough money. But, like, we have a challenge, and our quest is to face that challenge in a productive way so that we can have all of our needs met and some of our wants and enjoy our lives. Like, parks are free. Most parks are free. Bring your kids to a park. Go on a picnic. Like, it doesn't have to be a zoo membership. It doesn't have to be going to a movie theater. Like, read a book together. Go to the library. You can learn stuff. You don't. So my oldest son is going back to college. That's great. But if you don't have a career in mind and you just want to learn something, there are free courses online that are offered by Harvard and other places. You don't get credit for it, but you still get the knowledge. So if you Google free Harvard classes, free classes online, there are several open courseware type things where you will get an online asynchronous class for free. You'll learn something from it. I can't tell you how much I've learned from YouTube. It's amazing. I wanted to learn something when I was working in an office setting, and I needed to do VLOOKUPs on spreadsheets, and I went online, and there were college professors giving out that information for free. So some people were paying for it in a college, and I was getting it for free by Googling whatever problem I had that I needed to solve. And you can do it too, right? We got this. Be humble, be frugal, be creative, think outside the box, be part of a community, give out when you have extra, and be willing to take and accept when you need it. Be good, be sweet, grow a garden if you want to eat, and I'll see you on the next video.